Hey folks, so as many of you may have known already, I've been doing a couple tutorial series like videos about how to use Wire and how to use Resolume. I thought it may be interesting to actually maybe go through some of my patches and some practical applications as well. Some of the patches that I've created in the past, I haven't really gone into too much explanation, and I thought these two patches that I have in this series, I thought could be better explained. So in many cases, I actually do a lot of projection mapping stuff. I use Heavy M as my projection mapping program of choice. However, a lot of all the other kinds of things that are going on, the special effects, the design, the animations behind the scenes are all done in Resolume. Typically, that's where I usually do most of my stuff. I also use Synesthesia. Synesthesia is a great program for a textured pattern that is audio reactive. So I use those two processes throughout my scenes within Heavy M. However, there are these particular times where I wanted to be able to have more of a kind of a three-dimensional look. And one of the biggest issues that I ran into was I thought, oh, well, I've got a great example. I've got a great solution for that. I could use Blender 3D as a way to create a fake lighting. And then I could overlay that into Resolume, and then I'd get this three-dimensional, view. And so when I started doing that, one of the things that I noticed was that I was running out of memory space. So what I did to kind of fix this, or what I did to kind of combat this idea, is I actually was looking to other solutions and found someone talking about normal lighting, creating a three-dimensional lighting and faking it in a two-dimensional space. So I created Map Normal Lighting. Map Normal Lighting is an effect that takes a normal map, like as you can see in front of you, and what it does is it actually creates lighting based on that map that's being created. And so this map allows me to control many different things. Right at this moment, I have light on. I have the number 1 light on. You'll notice that number 2 light is off, but number 3 is on as well. And you'll notice there's a red color for the number 3, which is in the bottom right-hand corner. So what this does is it basically allows me to control my lighting in a fake sense. There really is not a light there. It's just a reference over the top of the normal map. And then what I can do is I can actually control the strength of the normal map, right? And so it gives it this kind of false sense of lighting. I can control the opacity of that light, and I can also control the constraint, or the contrast, of that light. I can also control the size of that light. So then as it's passing across, it gives this kind of appearance like there's a light going across that specific scene. I thought this was visually interesting, and I was really kind of looking for a way to kind of do this, and this is the solution that I came up with. It's a fairly easy, fairly low cost, if you will, way of me creating a fake sense of lighting. So in this particular case, I have 3 different kinds of lights. So here's the second set here, and it goes down to the bottom. And then we also have the third set, and same thing, it goes down to the bottom, right? So you have a series of options. You have the option to change the direction, and you could physically set this to a timeline, for instance. Right at this moment, it's set to just BPM sync, but let's change that. We'll do time. And then we could bounce that left and right. And then what we could do is we could actually shorten the length of where it bounced from left to right. Right, and so now we have this kind of fake lighting that's going across the screen. Now, this is all visually interesting. However, we might want to add a little bit more into this. So what I've done here is this is an overlay of the original orb. So this is just a straight black and white. I actually took out the saturation so you can't see the color, right? It had this aqua color, but maybe I didn't want that, right? Maybe what we want to do is we want to do a colorize, COLOR, and we'll colorize it to a specific color. We'll change the alpha to, let's say, overlay, and then tone it down just a little bit, right? So now we have this kind of red orb. We could change this to green. We could change it to blue. So it's an easy way of making adjustments to that, right? So now when we have this over the top of it, we actually have this kind of fake lighting that looks a little bit more organic. It really feels like it has depth. But maybe this is not enough. Maybe what we need to do is actually add in another set. Here is a bump map of that same orb, okay? I actually created these three options here within a program called Filter Forge. However, you could do the same thing in Blender. I created these in Filter Forge because I liked this design, and so I thought this would be a very easy, simplified normal map. However, I've used many different things. This is not the only time where I've used this kind of example. But I really like the ornateness of this orb, and so that was the reason why I chose this. But in any case, we're looking at the normal map of the object. It looks relatively similar to the overlay, the diffused map, right? Which is this. But the difference between the normal and the diffuse is that the normal is basically creating pits and grooves where the gray and the dark is versus the light. So there's another effect that I have actually created, and it is called the 3D contour lines. 3D contour lines creates a contour based on the map that you provided. So in this case, the depth map. It's creating this kind of 3D contour based on the light values, the dark values, and all the grays in between, right? So this allows me to kind of create this kind of look. You'll notice that there is a kind of a wave going on, but we can take that wave out. If I go to the bend and turn off the bend, now we just have lines moving up, right? And now when I add in my overlay and I add in my lights, now I get this very interesting, unique way of creating three-dimensional space in a two-dimensional program. I think that in the grand scheme of things, that this is relatively better than trying to use a three-dimensional program. It's just a simplified way of creating those kinds of looks. And the thing that I like about this the most is that it gives me the option to play around with the colors, right? So we could go down to the bottom where the lines are making the contour colors. I could change this to green. I could change this to blue. It's really up to me. I can change the background color so that it could be yellow, it could be red, it could be any color I so choose to, right? I could change the HSB. I could rotate the color based on a timeline and have it bounce. So now it's going to cycle through the rainbow of colors of hue, and it's just going to bounce back and forth and back and forth. And I can increase that value, wrong direction. I could increase that value. So now we're getting this like bounce back and forth, right? It's a much quicker kind of brightness. If I upgrade or bring up the brightness of it, you can really see it now, right? It's going from one side of the spectrum to the other. So this makes for a visual interest. There are many different things that I have set up here. Just take note that the diffuse has set to overlay and that it's set to about 50% of the value. If I up that, it really kind of takes over the contour lines below it. But you may want the contour lines to show through, so I just kind of bled it through, or I created an overlay of the orb diffuse right over the top of the contour lines. Same thing with the logo or the map normal lighting at the very top. That's set to alpha. However, in this particular case, if I wanted to change the lighting, I would probably do that within the lighting settings here. This is a particular kind of unique kind of situation. You may not have this kind of desire to have this kind of thing, but I thought this was a really great idea of having a way to create a three-dimensional space that is just a two-dimensional plane. in theory, if you had the understanding of how a three-dimensional program works, you could also create like a looping animation that is just the normal, a looping animation for the diffuse, and then a looping animation for the bump, and do the same thing with a moving animation. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to kind of give a quick tutorial about how these two patches work. Once again, that is the 3D contour mapping, excuse me, just 1 second, the 3D contour lines, right? You can find that on JuiceBar. And then also the mapped normal lighting, which is also found on JuiceBar. Thank you very much for watching my tutorials, and I do appreciate your time. If you guys have any questions about things that you would like to see in the future, let me know, because I'd really like to be able to showcase more stuff, give you a better understanding as to what it is that I like to do, and, you know, just answer any other kinds of questions that you guys might have. I appreciate your time for today, and thank you very much, and I hope the rest of your day is good. Have a great day.